Hi everyone. Welcome to the presentation for the Bachelor of Media Design program that runs here at Media Design School. I'm just going to take you through a quick presentation just to kind of explain what the Bachelor of Media Design is, view of the program itself, and the kinds of roles that you might expect to go into after completing the program. And then afterwards, we can run a few questions. So the program itself is a 3-year degree. The first year is multidisciplinary. And then in the second year, you major in motion design, interactive design, or graphic design. The reason why the first year is multidisciplinary is because when I came from industry to media design school, that's the way that I was working. I used to work for an agency called Interbrand, which are a large international branding agency. And in my role there, predominantly branding across all sorts of different things like black caps and Sky Sports and all sorts of other things. Lotteries was another account. My day-to-day practice encompassed not just graphic design, but motion design and interactive design, and now into UX design, which is user experience. And so that's predominantly how people work. They work across different disciplines, but they have a specialist area in one of those disciplines. So my specialist area was branding and graphic design within the field. But I needed to understand enough about motion design in order to talk to someone about how Sky Sports logo might articulate into moving image, right? I need to understand that language. I need to understand how I speak to someone about an interactive website and know a little bit about HTML and a little bit about front-end development. And so with that broad kind of skill base, I can talk to different practitioners within their different fields, but I also have my specialism. And that's why in the first year, we have a multidisciplinary approach. So you get a good understanding and a good grounding across those different majors. And then with that knowledge, you can then choose to specialize in one of those majors. And I'll explain how that works through the course of the presentation. One major facet of the Bachelor of Media Design that sets it aside, I think, from quite a lot of our competitors is the industry connectedness. And that's something that MDS prides itself on, but the Bachelor of Media Design is truly connected to industry. It's not just something that we say or have advertising around. We actually do it on a day-to-day basis. We have guest speakers in tomorrow, for example, and connecting with industry throughout the course of the program, and so are students. The way that a day-to-day project might work for you coming onto the program is whether it's a live brief or an individual brief that's not connected to a client, you will be working on projects from day one. And so you'll always be working in the background on a project on design problems. And the way that it works for live briefs is we have clients who come in, and really they're people we collaborate with rather than clients, but they come in and they have an overarching design problem that they present to our students. And then the students present back their first initial research into that design problem, using what they've learned in terms of user experience, understanding design thinking, and understanding the pain points behind maybe that experience for those consumers. They will develop a proposal pitch based on the design problem. So they go away and investigate that and come back with a proposal area that they want to investigate and present that back to the client and their lecturers. And then they'll go away again and come back and present their first initial stages, maybe with some prototypes and some user testing of those prototypes. And they'll do that again and again through this course of the subsequent WIPs through to a final presentation. And so they get feedback from the lecturers, but they also get feedback from the person that we're collaborating with at the moment. right at this very moment, we're collaborating with quite a lot of different clients, and one of them's Spark. And I'll go through that in a second. We have had a huge amount of industry collaboration on live briefs over the years. We've worked with All Blacks on the All Blacks experience. We've worked with Les Mills for creating motion sequences for their gyms. We've created or looked at the future of news with Stuff. We've looked at cleaning up New Zealand's waterways or educating youth around how to clean up waterways or the impact of microfibers that go out into the ocean with sustainable coastlines. And we've worked on the benefit mindset with Kathmandu last year, integrating more ethical practices and informing the public about choices for clothing. This year, we're working with Spark. Like I said, that's currently due to wrap up in a couple of weeks' time. Final presentations along that cycle. And our students are working with Spark on a project for Matariki. Can't talk too much about it, but essentially it's using technology to amplify storytelling for Matariki, using G5 and other things. So it's really quite a cool little project they've got going there, and that's in year 2 and year 3. We're working with Stardome. Stardome are revamping their observatory, and we're working with them on that. Auckland Transport, we're working with them on a tailored solution for their mobile app. MOTAT, our year 1 students are working on a pop-up experience for them. And we're also working with the AI Forum. And AI is something that is a hot topic at the moment, and it's a hot topic in design. And my point of view is that if we are truly trying to make our students industry ready, then we need to be looking at the skills and aptitudes that they will need in 3 years' time. So in 3 years' time is when they're going to graduate. So we have to really be experimenting with something like AI. We need to be understanding as much as we possibly can about what designers are doing and industry are doing in that practice, and impart that to our students. So that's what we're currently in the process of doing. Like I said before, in terms of partnerships with industry, for example, DNA are a design agency here in our campus in Wynyard Quarter. Beautiful campus, but underneath us on the bottom floor are DNA and Google are on the top floor. DNA are a design agencies, digital design agency, and they've come in and are doing, I have completed actually a series of workshops with our interactive students. So our students are effectively being taught certain sections of up-to-date UX practice from an actual design agency. And they'll be coming in to mentor our year 3 students as well. So these are things that alongside the normal mentorship and the normal talk content that you'll get from your lecturers, which are predominantly from industry and have teaching experience. So hopefully that kind of rounds off the academic approach as well as industry relevant approach. We've had quite a lot of guest speakers in, as we kind of always do. Just to give you guys an example, Mona Garber is a user experience specialist who's a graduate of Media Design School and award-winning student who's gone on to do quite cool things and specializes now in creating inclusive user experience. So essentially, when you go to use a product or service or an application website, is it accessible for all users? You know, if I'm sight impaired, can I still read the content or the colors and the choices that go into that particular experience? Nick McFarlane, not sure if anyone's on this Zoom call who'll be old enough to know, but famous for being a Prodigy album cover designer, came in to talk to our students about artificial intelligence and about how he's using it in his own practice, as well as it being used in his role as a creative director. John Penn, one of the founders of Photoshop, and came in to talk to our students about essentially using Photoshop to take an existing snapshot of maybe a child that went missing and then retrofit that into what that child would look like if they were a teenager. And he does that for the police in the United States and came over to talk to our students about that, which is really quite a cool experience for everyone. Madeline Newman is from the AI Forum, talking about artificial intelligence. Journey Digital are a digital design agency who came in to talk about AI and show case studies in terms of user experience, and the same for DNA. So we've had quite a few. And as I say, we've got Rush Digital in tomorrow talking about roles in industry and what to expect from industry, but also the advancements of AI. We win a lot of awards in the Bachelor of Media Design. The reason why we try to win awards, why we try to encourage our students to enter awards and mentor them through that process, is that really, from my experience in industry, if a portfolio comes through and it's been reviewed by some of the top people in the industry, so they've reviewed this as part of a competition, Designers Institute of New Zealand Best Awards, for example, and it's deemed to be the best of the best, then that's obviously going to pique my interest. It's going to pique anyone's interest who's looking to employ someone. So that's the strategy there. That's why we enter awards, and that's why we put a bit of emphasis on trying to do so. Obviously, it's nice for us to shout about domestically, internationally, but the real point of it is to get our students a foot in the door, to get the roles that they want to and achieve their dreams. So majors, one of the majors is interactive and UX design. So we're talking about user experience. What might that look like was a project that one of our students developed, Rose Norgrove. She picked up a Red Dot International Design Award in 2021 and a raft of other awards as well. I'll just play a video for you that you can watch. It's just basically is a nice, and the reason why I included it in this presentation is it's quite a nice example of a student using their knowledge or their foundational knowledge that they've gained across year one in terms of branding, graphic design, motion design, and UX methodologies, and a little bit of interactive design, and then taking that and drilling down further into it in the second year in their major as an interactive designer, and then utilizing that knowledge to be able to create this project. So I'll just just sort of talk about a little bit about that a little bit further. Rose developed this product essentially as being a type 1 diabetic. She herself, she has multiple devices to use. So she has an insulin pen and she has a blood glucose reader. So there are two devices. The blood glucose reader is for reading your the blood glucose in your body from your blood, and you have to do a little pinprick, use another device that measures that blood glucose, and then do a calculation based on the food that you consume to inject yourself with insulin. So obviously it's quite a lot of disconnected parts in that user experience, and the application that you use or is provided really, or you can download for type 1 diabetics, isn't that intuitive and doesn't really display information in a kind of accessible way that you would want to use as a user continuously every day. So that's what Rose did. She set about creating a device that took multiple devices and brought those together in one insulin delivery device called Dual. And she picked up 3 golds at the Best Awards, a gold for public good, a gold for digital, a gold for product design, in Good Design Awards, a gold there, and an International Red Dot Award. So pretty proud of what she achieved. Last year, we picked up 2 golds at the Designers Institute of New Zealand Award for digital and public good for a project developed by one of our graduates from last year. So he took all of what he learned through into the final year of study, and some of his key learnings through COVID. And one of those things that he investigated was the fact that loved ones couldn't be or couldn't travel during COVID. So you couldn't travel to a different country and be with your loved one if they passed, if someone passed away in your family, you couldn't be with loved ones. So how could you connect without traveling and celebrate someone's life online? So he created this closed group. So you can invite family members and you can invite friends and family, and you can then record messages for loved ones. And after you go through that kind of cathartic process, there's a point where you can get your phone and you can release a star into the night sky with other stars that are in the night sky that represent other people. And it's kind of like a cathartic process of saying goodbye. And he picked up 2 golds, best awards last year for that. Another kind of example of one of our students and you know, where they are, where they're moving to, what they've done. Last year, one of our students picked up a Core 77 or 2 Core 77 awards based out of New York, and a Designers Institute of New Zealand silver at the best awards. She's currently working at 7, a strategic brand agency. And her final year project was to do with her father. Her father is a farmer, and her father was looking to incorporate sustainable practices back into his farming. But obviously, considering again the user experience out in the field, predominantly not carrying around laptops or accessibility to all sorts of different technology, what you have in your hand really is the phone that you've got in your pocket. And so utilizing that piece of hardware, how can you connect with others around Aotearoa? And they get some key information on how you can just in time incorporate sustainable practices into your farming, or have a look at what other people are doing. And so that's what she did. She developed an app that allows you to do just that, and picked up a raft of awards for her. Let me see if I can, Moving on to the next one. This is an example of motion design. So this one's a little bit motion design and interactive design. So this is for a project that was developed and won a best award last year for Toiteanga, which is projects that have a sort of Māori focus or an outcome. It was in conjunction with Panuku for Matariki, and these students created a touch wall, so an interactive touch wall, and you can go up and you can touch the wall, and it triggers a motion sequence that runs alongside the narrative.
Jim, sorry, are you changing the slides?
Yes.
Okay, no, so it is actually not changing. It's stuck on that first slide.
Why is that paused? Let's have a look. Let me stop sharing. Right, share again. Close this down. All right.
All right, let's try to change that.
Well, rather than go full screen, maybe what I'll do is, you see that?
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes, yes, yes.
I think it's because it's gone full screen. Maybe Zoom
Okay.
can't
All right.
handle. Oh, well, there we go. in this particular context, you learned
Cool.
something. Okay, so I'll just skip through to where I was. Just because you've missed most of this, I'll just go over very quickly. The first year, multidisciplinary; second year, motion design, interactive and graphic design. Industry connected was just showing a graphic in terms of how that work in progress flow happens. These are all the clients that we worked with. This is what we've worked with this year so far. DNA partnerships, some examples there. Example of some of our guest speakers that have come into the program. And there was a little bit talking about awards and why we enter awards. As an example of the UX project that Rose undertook for type 1 diabetics called Dual. And what I might do actually is just play a little video for you, and hopefully this works. We can. There you go. That was Rose's project for Dual. And then I went on to talk about a project that one of our students developed called Stellify. This is kind of what this looks like here. I won't play that particular video at the moment. And then we talked about a project that won 2 Core 77 awards based out of New York, that was for the sustainable practicing app called Fellow Fields. And then motion design, these are the students that developed this interactive touch wall that I was talking about for Panuku as part of a live brief. I'll play a little video that explains some of the work. And so essentially you can see here a demonstration of them utilizing the touch screen, or the wall that they developed, touch wall. So you go up and you press where the hand symbols are, and an animation sequence plays. The idea is that for kids like mine who aren't very good at standing still or listening to stories, that they can get up and they can interact with something that's happening. There's separate scenes that you can activate. And then, say for a family, for example, my kids could go up and they could press and activate each one of these touch points and get interest through the animation that's playing and a little bit of a sound sequence that plays at the same time. So you've got the story playing in the background, and they've got something to do, an interactivity that they can play with. So that's quite a nice project that encompasses graphic design, in terms of its branding content and its illustration, its depiction, motion design in terms of the motion sequence, the animation that plays out, and interactivity in the way that it's an interactive experience. It was a fully realized prototype that the client came in, and you can see them pressing on different squares there to activate the experience itself. Obviously, it's a prototype. So yeah, at this stage, it was just to get across the concept to the clients, but quite a nice little project. Graphic design, an example of graphic design outcome from our students. This is quite a nice one. Last year, one of our students, or former student, Russell Fox, picked up a Rising Star Award. There's one of these given every year, only one of them globally, by the Design Week Awards, based out of the UK, and they chose a New Zealand designer and one of our graduates. And the work that he submitted to receive that award was from a project that he developed here in study with us called Woven. And yeah, Woven really was a project that he developed that tried to help the general public understand the context of weaving for Māori in a pop-up live experience that happened in Freiburg Square. And it had some interactive experience. It had some graphic content that you could interact with. Yeah, and it's quite nice that to think that he went away and then used that as a catalyst to pick up an International Rising Star Award. So as I said before, first year is multidisciplinary, primarily understanding UX methodologies and how that might apply across problem solving, design thinking, again, for problem solving in terms of briefs, always working on briefs as you go through. When you get to term 3, you take what you've learned and impart that knowledge into an interdisciplinary design project across motion, graphic, and interactive design. Then in term 4, you do above the line advertising contexts, outcome for creative media strategies. Live briefs we've got at the moment in year 1 are working with Motat. Last year we worked with Citrus Inc. on album covers and animating those album covers and doing a interactive website. Year 2, specializations in graphic, motion, or interactive design. If you went into interactive design, you would learn more about HTML, CMS, Figma. If you went into motion design, you would learn more about Cinema 4D, After Effects, etc. And if you're in graphics, you would continue on your journey with Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign and others as a support in terms of technical knowledge. Term 1's a deep dive into your major. So real deep dive into your major there. In term 2, you do a group project, and the group project essentially has you respond to a real world brief, as I described before, as a motion designer, graphic designer, interactive designer. So normally 3 or 4 people involved in that team, and you work together effectively like a little design agency to respond to some real world problems for real world clients. And then in term 4, you do special topic, which is utilizing new technology in a research-driven way. Lots of live briefs that I spoke about before. You know, bottom left-hand example is from Staff. Bottom right-hand example there is from Kathmandu. The top right is from ASB Bank. That project at the time was trying to understand if we could improve how young people save money for the future. Yeah, capstone is when essentially you put all of what you've learned from the first 2 years, first year and second year, and you put that into practice in a couple of major projects. You develop a portfolio. You again do an interdisciplinary design project across, as you might be a motion designer working with an interactive designer and a graphic designer on a major project. And then capstone is the end kind of result of all that we've learned put into a final major project that spans an entire semester's worth of study. And so what you should be getting in your first year is a broad base of understanding of motion, graphic, and interactive design, some outcomes there for your portfolio. Second year, first term, drilling down into your major, some real key learnings that you need there. Second year, you've got your group project with an industry relevant client, which is obviously important for your portfolio. utilizing new technology and experimentation happening there at the end of that second year. Year 3, you're collating that all into a portfolio. You're then conducting another interdisciplinary group project for your portfolio and a final major piece for your portfolio right at the end. And here are some examples of last year's outcomes for capstone that will be soon entering into the best awards that have come up this year. Bottom right-hand corner is an application and a brand for an app that helps you measure and keep track of moles that are on your skin to fight skin cancer. That's called Freckle. Top right-hand corner was an online student based in Tauranga who developed his final major project around supporting men through mental health. And that was in conjunction with the Tauranga Council pop-up kind of exhibition and interactive experience that he developed there. The Bachelor of Media Design next intake is in July, 17th of July. And then the one after that will be in February. Our July intake is slightly different to a normal intake in that our students take components over the break. So I'll just very quickly explain how that works. When you come into the program, you take or sit 2 terms worth of study. So you come in July, and by the end of November, you will have completed 2 terms worth of study, 60 credits. What would ordinarily happen is you would go away then, and you would have a rather long break from November all the way through to February. Then you would come back and you would continue study and do 120 credits that year. You would then come back and do 120 credits the following year, and then 60 credits the year after. So instead of pushing that 60 credits out into that final year, what we've done is you will undertake those credits over the course of the first 2 years. So first year, you come in July. Instead of finishing in November, you take some components. You take 1 component over the break, which is a 30 credit component. You have 4 weeks break, summer break over that time, but you consume that 30 credits. You come back in year 2, do 120 credits up to November. Again, over Christmas, you have your 4 weeks break, but you take components over that summer period, which allows you then to go into the 3rd year at the same time as someone who entered the program from February. So you will complete your degree as though you started in February, although you're starting in July. So if you look on the top here, the first year being 2023, second year 2024, and the final year being 2025. In the normal practice of not taking those components over the break, you would then have another half year before you would have completed your program. Same amount of credits, same amount of learning. It's just we utilize the summer break to take on some more learning so that our students can finish their degree slightly quicker, and more importantly, take advantage of those life briefs that we have that are integral to the program. So when you come out of your first year, you join in July, and when you come out of your first year and you enter in February, when you come back in February after a little break that you've got, you'll be coming back and setting your major. So you're sharing that major components with people from the February intake, and that means you can undertake those live briefs at exactly the same time. Hopefully that makes sense. Not sure if there's any time for questions, but that's the end of my presentation. And sorry about the slides not moving. I didn't realize you can't go full screen. Who knew? Let's go to the chat here. I think these are all just really the chats for the moment. Is just about the slide not working. There's a question here from Even can I do graphic design and motion design at the same time? Not in your specialists area, but you can. In the first year, you'll be learning motion design, graphic design, interactive design for 1 year. And then in the second year, you'll major. So you'll be in your major. The third year is quite multidisciplinary as well, but you're still utilizing the skill set from your major, if that makes sense. What we're trying to do is create what we call a T-shaped grad, which is someone who understands fundamental knowledge across all of those different disciplines, but has the ability to be able to go quite deep into one of those areas. What you'll find is if you do a program that is all multidisciplinary, so across the board, and I see quite a lot of portfolios in this, it's great because you get to do lots of different things. But what you demonstrate in your portfolio is just that, the ability to do lots of different things, but do none of them very, very well. And really, agencies and design agencies really are looking for people who can do things very, very well. They love people who are interested in all sorts of different areas, don't get me wrong, and that's something that should be really strong in your portfolio. It's just you need to demonstrate an aptitude to be able to, if you're an interactive designer, to understand UX methodologies, to be able to code and to be able to do those things, right? If you can't, then when you go into work, they're going to have to train you to do those things, which employers are not too keen on spending too much money. They want people to come in and have at least a good core set to come in and hit the ground running in a studio. Any more questions quickly before we end the session? Looking to study UX and UI? No, you don't need to have a background knowledge. You're coming onto the degree for us to be able to teach you UX and UI, and UX is something that, like everything else in design, evolves over a period of time. So that's why we've got industry in this year teaching some of the classes. That's why we've got industry relevant lecturers teaching you guys. We wouldn't expect someone to have all that knowledge and come in. That's our job, to teach you. Having the most important thing for a portfolio for me is just demonstrating that you have a real creative interest, that not just in your personal work as well as work that you've done at school, let's say, for example. What would online study look like? Yeah, it's a great question. Online study utilizes a learning management system called Blackboard. And so our students that are online, let's say Chaz, who is down in Tauranga, his class would be here at Media Design School at a scheduled time. And the class would have physical people in the room and a lecturer, and Chaz would dial in real time to that class. We have cameras, 360 cameras that can pick up the lecturer as they move around the room. They can swivel from the lecturer to the audience. We have this thing called Catchbox, which allows us to be able to pick up people in the room if they're presenting, so that people online can hear, and some other little tools. And all of the content that's delivered is then recorded, and you can review that content on Blackboard. Let's say it's a lecture. You'll be able to view that content afterwards. You'll be able to view the slides, and you'll be able to participate in workshops, because we can break out the online groups into little areas inside the learning management system, give them tasks to do and report back just as though you would do if you were in the physical environment. Oh yeah. I could. Evan's asking, could I share the PowerPoint? It's quite a large file. So I'm not sure I'd be able to share it with you. Hopefully you got the gist of some of the presentation there. If you want my email's on our MDS site. if you want to email me, I'd be happy to talk to you, Ivan, and go through it. Beyond studying UX and UI, what careers do you think are competitive at the moment? There's a lot of competitive roles for design. Thankfully, over the course of the last few years, design has really kind of blown up. Design used to be, like I used to be predominantly in big agencies or smaller design agencies and maybe advertising agencies. Over the course of the last maybe 6 years, maybe more, that's moved into core companies now having their own. Most companies now of a certain size have their own designers working in-house. So for example, across the road here, ASB Bank have people working as design and in UX design. So they've got people working in motion design, UX design, graphic design. Datacom in the other direction have our students working there in UX design. So does Vodafone, who are now One. They have graphic designers, motion designers, interactive designers, motion designers working at TVNZ Blacksan. We've got, I think, 3 people working at Blacksan at the moment. Can you do both online and in person? Well, we do, using the example of Chaz, when he was working from Tauranga. Obviously that's too far to come in and out. But what Chaz did was when it came to those live briefs, he came in for key points. So he was prepared to drive up from Tauranga and attend physical classes to present to the client, which was his choice. And yeah, we'll always, this is everybody's campus, online students as well as physical students. So we would encourage people to come to the campus. And as long as there's room in the classroom, which there normally is, and space, then you're quite welcome to come in and utilize the space and resources that we've got here at Media Design School, as well as really be there for those key points, which I think is quite important. How many students do we have at the moment? We have around sort of 68 students in year 1. We have 72 students in year 2. We have around 60 students in year 3. And obviously with the new intake in July, those numbers will go up. But ordinarily, it's around 60 to 65 students. The reason why it's that number is that we have 3 majors. So we have motion, graphic and interactive design. And we try not to teach to multiple students. So you don't have one lecturer teaching 60 students, for example. You have one lecturer teaching 20 to 24 students. And so that ratio is kept consistent over the 3 years of the degree. And so that's why that number remains quite consistent. Hope that makes sense. Any more questions? Great questions, by the way. Awesome. I might stop sharing. And thanks everyone for joining.
Sorry, I think people are, so you'll get a recording of the session after the event is completed. So just keep an eye out on your emails. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone attending.
All right. See you. Thank you very much.
Bye.